Clara Whitmore's fingers were numb. Not from the December wind cutting through the stagecoach, but from clutching the letter she'd read 100 times. A stranger's words. A stranger's promise. A stranger's name she would take as her own before the week ended. She pressed her forehead against the frost-covered window and whispered the only prayer she had left. Please, let him be kind. That's all I ask. Just let him be kind. The stagecoach lurched to a stop. Pine Creek, Montana. Her new home. Her last chance. If you want to follow Clara's journey to the end, subscribe to our channel and comment which city you're watching from. Now let's begin. The stagecoach door swung open, and Clara Whitmore did not move. She heard the driver's boots hit the frozen ground, heard voices outside muffled by the wind, heard her own heartbeat pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. Ma'am? The driver's face appeared in the doorway. Pine Creek, this is your stop. Clara's hand tightened on her carpet bag. The fabric was worn through at the handles, patched twice with thread she'd pulled from her own hem. Everything she owned in the world fit inside that bag. Everything she had left. She rose on unsteady legs. The cold hit her like a wall. December in Montana territory was nothing like Missouri winters. This cold had teeth. It bit through her thin wool dress, through her mended stockings, through the newspaper she'd stuffed inside her shoes to cover the holes. Clara stepped down onto the platform and nearly stumbled. Careful there. The driver caught her elbow. His eyes traveled over her patched dress, her threadbare shawl, her shoes wrapped with cloth against the snow. Something shifted in his expression. Pity, maybe. Or embarrassment for her. She straightened her spine. Thank you. I'm fine. He released her quickly, as if her poverty might be contagious. Someone meeting you? Yes. Clara scanned the platform. Thomas Callahan. Do you know him? The driver's eyebrows rose. Tom Callahan, the Callahan Ranch. Is there another? He let out a low whistle. No, ma'am. There ain't. He looked at her again, this time with something like disbelief. You're the mail-order bride. Clara lifted her chin. I am. The driver's face went carefully blank. Well, he's usually punctual. I'm sure he'll be along. He turned away too quickly. Clara watched him unload baggage for other passengers, watched families reunite with embraces and laughter, watched a young woman in a blue velvet coat fall into her husband's arms. Clara stood alone. The platform emptied. The stagecoach pulled away. The wind picked up, carrying snowflakes that stung her cheeks like tiny needles. Still, she stood. Minutes passed. 5, 10, 15. Clara's teeth began to chatter. She clenched her jaw to stop them, pressed her hands deeper into her thin shawl. Her fingers had gone from numb to burning. He ain't coming. Clara turned. A woman stood behind her, wrapped in expensive fur, her face sharp and curious beneath a fashionable hat. I beg your pardon, Tom Callahan. The woman's smile didn't reach her eyes. He ain't coming. Probably took one look at you from his wagon and turned right around. Clara's stomach dropped. I don't understand. Don't you? The woman stepped closer, examining Clara like she was livestock at auction. Honey, I don't know what you wrote in your letters, but I'm guessing you left out a few details, like the fact that you're dressed in rags. My circumstances were made clear in my correspondence. The woman laughed, a bright, brittle sound. Oh, I'm sure they were. Men hear what they want to hear. She patted Clara's arm with gloved fingers. Take my advice, dear. Get back on the next stage. There's nothing for you here. She walked away, her fur coat swaying, her laughter floating back on the wind. Clara stood frozen, not from the cold this time. She looked down at herself, at the patches she'd sewn so carefully, each stitch precise despite the rough fabric, at her shoes wrapped like a beggar's, at her carpet bag held together with hope and thread. What had she done? She'd traveled over 1,000 miles, spent her last coins on the journey, written letters full of truth about her situation, her skills, her willingness to work. She'd been honest. Painfully, completely honest. And now she stood on a frozen platform in a strange town alone with nothing. Clara's eyes burned. She blinked hard. She would not cry. Not here. Not where anyone could see. "Excuse me." A man's voice, deep and quiet. Clara turned. He stood a few feet away, tall and broad-shouldered, his hat pulled low against the wind. His clothes were practical, worn, but well-made. Working man's clothes. His face was weathered with a short beard and dark hair showing gray at the temples. But it was his eyes that held her. Brown and warm, with something careful in them. Something guarded. "Are you Clara Whitmore?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "I am." He didn't move. Didn't smile. Just looked at her with those careful eyes, taking in her poverty the way everyone else had. Clara braced herself for the rejection. Instead, he removed his hat. "I'm Tom Callahan. I apologize for my lateness. The road from my ranch was blocked. I had to take the long way." Clara blinked. You came." Something flickered across his face. "Of course I came. I gave my word." Behind him, Clara noticed a small figure in the wagon. A girl, maybe 7 or 8, with dark braids and watchful eyes. She was bundled in a thick coat, clutching something to her chest. Tom followed Clara's gaze. "That's Lily, my daughter." A pause. "She wanted to meet you." Clara's throat tightened. In all her correspondence with Thomas Callahan, he'd written about Lily constantly. How she loved animals, how she was learning to read, how she needed a woman's presence in her life. That was why Clara had answered his advertisement. Not the promise of a comfortable home, not the prospect of a wealthy husband, but those words written in a careful hand. She needs someone who will be patient with her. Someone who will stay. Clara understood what it meant to need someone who would stay. "May I meet her?" Tom nodded and led her toward the wagon. Each step felt significant, weighted. Clara was aware of eyes watching from windows, from doorways. The town was small. Everyone would know by nightfall that Thomas Callahan's mail-order bride had arrived. In rags. "Lily." Tom's voice softened. "This is Miss Clara." The girl didn't speak. She studied Clara with the same careful assessment her father had, dark eyes revealing nothing. In her arms, she held a small wooden horse, worn smooth from handling. Clara knelt in the snow, ignoring the cold seeping through her dress. "Hello, Lily. Your father told me you like animals." Lily's arms tightened around the wooden horse. Still silent. "He said you have a dog named Biscuit. I've always loved dogs." Nothing. Clara tried again. "I had a cat once when I was your age. Her name was Marmalade because she was orange like the jam. She used to sleep on my pillow and purr so loud it sounded like thunder." Lily's lips twitched. Not a smile, but close. "What happened to her?" The girl's voice was barely a whisper. "She got old and went to sleep one day and didn't wake up. I was sad for a long time." "Did you cry?" "Yes, a lot. Do you think that's silly?" Lily shook her head solemnly. "My papa cried when my first papa went to heaven. But he doesn't know I saw." Clara's heart clenched. She glanced up at Tom, saw his jaw tighten, saw the grief he carried just beneath the surface. "Crying isn't silly," Clara said softly. "It means we loved someone very much." Lily considered this. Then slowly she held out the wooden horse. "This is Dusty. My first papa made him for me. But my papa now, he fixes him when he breaks. He's good at fixing things." Clara took the horse carefully, examined the tiny carved mane, the smooth legs, the small chip on one ear that had been repaired with obvious care. "He's beautiful. Your papa does good work." "I know." Lily reached for the horse and Clara returned it. "Miss Clara." "Yes." "Are you cold?" Clara realized she was shivering. Her lips had gone numb, her fingers burning beneath her thin shawl. A little. Lily turned to Tom. Papa, she's cold. We should go home now. Something shifted in Tom's expression. He looked at Clara, really looked at her, and she saw the war playing out behind his eyes. The doubts, the questions, the uncertainty about what he'd agreed to, but he only said, "She's right. Let's get you home." He helped Clara into the wagon, his hand steady under her elbow. His grip was gentle but firm, and when she was seated, he released her immediately. Proper. Careful. Tom climbed up beside her, and Lily squeezed between them, still clutching Dusty. "It's about an hour's ride," Tom said, not looking at her. "There are blankets behind the seat." Clara reached back and found thick wool blankets well made and warm. She hesitated. "Go on," Tom said. "You'll freeze otherwise." She wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, and the warmth was so immediate, so welcome, that her eyes stung again. When had anyone last offered her warmth? They rode in silence. The town gave way to open land, white fields stretching toward distant mountains. The sky was gray and heavy with snow. Clara watched the landscape pass, aware of Tom's solid presence beside her, of Lily's small body pressed against her side. The girl had fallen asleep within minutes, her head drooping toward Clara's shoulder. Clara held very still, afraid to disturb her. "She doesn't usually warm to strangers." Tom's voice was quiet, meant only for her. "Children know things. They see what adults miss." He was silent for a long moment. Then, "What do you think she sees in you?" Clara considered the question. Maybe she sees someone who understands what it's like to lose everything and still have to get up in the morning. Tom's hands tightened on the reins. "You know about her father." "Her first father, yes. You mentioned in your letters that she was the daughter of a man who worked for you, that he died." "Jake Morrison. Good man. Good friend." Tom's voice roughened. His wife left when Lily was 2. Just walked away one morning. Jake raised her alone for years. When he died, there was no one else. "So you took her in?" "What else was I supposed to do? Let her go to an orphanage." He said it like the very idea was offensive. "She's mine now. The adoption will be final in spring." Clara looked down at the sleeping child, at her dark braids and peaceful face. "She's lucky to have you." "She needs a mother." Tom's jaw worked. "That's what the judge said. A proper family. A woman's presence." He paused. "That's why I wrote that advertisement." "I know. Do you—" He finally looked at her, and Clara saw the doubt he'd been hiding. "Miss Whitmore, I have to be honest with you. When I posted that advertisement, I expected, well, you expected someone with means, someone respectable. I expected the woman in your letters, educated, capable, dignified." His eyes dropped to her patched dress. "Your circumstances are more difficult than I anticipated." Clara's chin lifted. "My circumstances changed after I wrote those letters. My father died and left nothing but debts. I sold everything to pay them. I could have borrowed fine clothes and come here pretending to be something I'm not. Would you have preferred that? No. Then what?" Tom was quiet. The wagon creaked and swayed. Wind whistled across the frozen fields. "I don't know," he admitted finally. "I just don't know." Lily stirred against Clara's shoulder, murmured something in her sleep, then settled again. "I won't lie to you, Mr. Callahan." Clara kept her voice low, steady. "I have nothing. No money. No family. No prospects beyond what you offered in your letters. But I have hands that aren't afraid of work. I have a mind that was educated in the best school in St. Louis. And I have a heart that knows how to love a child who needs loving." She met his eyes directly. "If that's not enough, tell me now. I'll go back on the next stage. I won't burden you with an unwanted wife." The words hung in the cold air. Tom's jaw tightened. Something warred behind his careful eyes. pride and poverty, expectation and reality, the opinions of a watching town, and the quiet truth of who she was. "The next stage isn't for 3 days," he said at last. "Roads might be impassable by then." "I understand. You'll stay at the ranch. We'll see how things go." It wasn't acceptance. It wasn't rejection. It was something in between, a holding pattern, a chance to prove herself or fail. Clara nodded. "Thank you." They rode the rest of the way in silence, but it was a different silence now. Less guarded, more like two people measuring each other, trying to understand what they'd gotten themselves into. The Callahan ranch appeared through the falling snow like something from a dream. A large house, well built and solid. A barn that looked newer. Fences stretching across white fields, cattle huddled against the wind. "It's beautiful," Clara said before she could stop herself. Tom glanced at her, surprised. "It's just a ranch. It's a home. There's a difference." He didn't respond, but something flickered in his expression. Something like the beginning of respect. He pulled the wagon to a stop before the house and climbed down, reaching up to take Lily from Clara's arms. The girl woke, blinking. "We're home, little bird," Tom murmured. "Let's get inside." Clara stepped down from the wagon, her legs stiff from the cold ride. She stood in the yard, looking up at the house, at the smoke rising from the chimney, at the warm light glowing behind the windows. 3 days. She had 3 days to prove her worth. 3 days to convince this careful, guarded man that she was more than her poverty. 3 days to show a wounded little girl that some people do stay. The front door opened, and an older woman appeared, wiping her hands on her apron. "About time. I was worried sick. Road's clear enough." "We made it." Tom carried Lily toward the house. "Mrs. Brennan, this is Clara Whitmore. Clara, this is my housekeeper, Ida Brennan. She's been with me since I built this place." Ida's sharp eyes swept over Clara's threadbare dress, her patched shawl, her wrapped shoes. Her expression revealed nothing. "Well," Ida said briskly, "you look half frozen. Come inside before you catch your death. I've got stew on the stove and coffee hot." Clara followed them into the house, and the warmth hit her like an embrace. She hadn't realized how cold she'd become until heat surrounded her, seeping into her frozen fingers, her numb toes, her aching bones. The house was simple but well made. Wooden floors worn smooth by years of use. A stone fireplace with a fire crackling bright. Furniture that was practical rather than fancy, built for comfort and durability. "Sit by the fire," Ida ordered. "I'll bring you something hot." Clara obeyed, too cold and overwhelmed to argue. She sank into a chair by the hearth, her shaking hands stretched toward the flames. Tom set Lily down, and the girl immediately ran to Clara's side. "Miss Clara, are you still cold?" "Getting warmer. This fire helps a lot." Lily nodded seriously. "Papa built this fireplace. He's good at building things. I told you." "You did." Tom watched them from across the room, his expression unreadable. He'd removed his hat, and Clara could see his face more clearly now. Strong features, lines around his eyes that spoke of years squinting against the sun, a mouth that looked like it had forgotten how to smile. "I need to see to the horses," he said. "Lily, show Miss Clara to her room, the one at the end of the hall." "The blue room?" "Yes." He was gone before Clara could respond, the door closing firmly behind him. Ida appeared with a steaming cup. "Coffee. Drink it before it gets cold." Clara wrapped her hands around the cup, let the heat soak into her palms. "Thank you, Mrs. Brennan." "Ida. Everyone calls me Ida." The older woman studied Clara with shrewd eyes. "You've had a long journey." "Very long." "From Missouri," Tom said. "Yes, St. Louis." Ida's expression softened slightly. "Well, you're here now. That's what matters." She patted Clara's shoulder, the gesture surprisingly gentle. "Rest tonight. Tomorrow's soon enough for getting acquainted." She returned to the kitchen, leaving Clara alone with Lily. The girl tugged at Clara's hand. Come on, I'll show you your room. Clara rose, still clutching her coffee, and followed Lily down a narrow hallway. The girl chattered as she walked. This is Papa's room, and this is my room, and this... She pushed open a door at the end of the hall. It is the blue room. See, the curtains are blue. That's why it's called that. Clara stepped inside and stopped. It was a small room simply furnished. A bed with a blue quilt, a dresser with a mirror, a washstand with a pitcher and basin, a window overlooking the snow-covered fields. But it was warm, clean, welcoming. Do you like it? Lily asked anxiously. Clara's throat tightened. I love it. Really? Really? Lily beamed. I helped Ida get it ready. I picked flowers from the greenhouse and put them in that vase. See? Clara turned. On the dresser in a small glass vase, 3 winter roses stood. Pink and perfect, clearly precious in this frozen landscape. They're beautiful, Lily. Papa grows them. For my first mama. Well, for her memory. She planted the bushes when I was a baby before she left. Lily's voice dropped. I don't remember her. But Papa keeps her flowers growing anyway. Clara knelt beside the girl, taking her small hand. That's very kind of him. He says some things are worth keeping even when they hurt. Lily met Clara's eyes. Miss Clara. Yes. Are you going to stay? The question was so direct, so vulnerable, that Clara felt it like a blow. I want to, she said honestly. But that's not just up to me. Lily nodded, accepting this with the strange wisdom of children who had already learned that adults didn't always keep their promises. I hope you stay. She squeezed Clara's hand. I prayed for you, you know. Every night. I asked God to send someone nice. Clara's eyes stung. You did? Papa didn't know, but I did. Lily smiled, small and hopeful. Maybe he listened. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Ida appeared in the doorway. Lily, time to wash up for supper. Miss Clara, take your time getting settled. I'll call when food's ready. Lily bounced toward the door, then turned back. Miss Clara? Yes. Biscuit sleeps in my room. If you get lonely tonight, I can bring him to visit you. Clara managed a smile. I'd like that. The girl disappeared down the hallway, her footsteps light and quick. Clara sank onto the bed, suddenly exhausted. The day caught up to her all at once, the endless stagecoach ride, the cold platform, the stares of strangers, the uncertain future stretching before her. She set down her coffee and lifted her carpet bag onto the bed. Inside were all her worldly possessions, 2 dresses, both patched and faded, a nightgown worn thin from washing, a hairbrush that had belonged to her mother, a book of poetry her father had given her for her 16th birthday, and a small wooden box containing her only treasures, a locket with her parents' photographs, a ribbon from her mother's hair, and the letters Thomas Callahan had written. Clara pulled out the letters and spread them on the bed. 23 letters over 4 months. She knew them by heart. I am a plain man, Miss Whitmore. I don't know fancy words or pretty speeches, but I can promise you a warm home, honest work, and a child who needs a mother's love. Lily asked me today what you look like. I told her I don't know yet. She said it doesn't matter as long as you're kind. I reckon she's right. I should warn you, this territory is not gentle. Winters are harsh, summers are harder. The work never ends. If you're looking for an easy life, you won't find it here. But if you're looking for a purpose, for a place where you're needed, for a family that will value you for who you are and not what you bring, maybe this could be home. Clara pressed the last letter to her chest. He'd offered her exactly what she needed: purpose, belonging, value. And she'd arrived with nothing to offer in return but herself. Would that be enough? A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Come in. Tom stood in the doorway, still in his work clothes, still wearing that careful expression. Supper's ready. If you want to wash up first, there's warm water in the pitcher. Thank you. He didn't leave. He stood there looking at her, at the letters spread across the bed. You kept them. Clara gathered the letters quickly. Of course I kept them. Why? She looked up at him, at this man who had offered a stranger hope. Because you were honest with me. You told me exactly what to expect, the hardship, the work, the isolation. You didn't paint pretty pictures to lure me here. You told me the truth. She held up the final letter. And then you wrote this, a family that will value you for who you are, not what you bring. Do you know how rare that is, Mr. Callahan, to find someone who cares about who you are? His expression shifted. Something cracked beneath the careful surface. I meant every word. Then why do you look at me like you're already regretting your decision? The question hung between them, sharp and honest. Tom stepped into the room, closing the distance between them. He stopped a few feet away, close enough that Clara could see the weariness in his eyes, the tension in his jaw. I don't regret anything, he said slowly. I'm just scared. Clara blinked. Scared? Lily's already attached to you. I saw it on that platform. I saw how she looked at you. If this doesn't work out, if you leave... He stopped, his voice rough. I can't watch her lose someone else. Then don't send me away. It's not that simple. Why not? Tom's hands clenched at his sides. Because this town will make your life miserable. They'll judge you, mock you, call you the beggar bride behind your back and to your face, and I can't protect you from all of it. Clara stood facing him directly. I didn't come here expecting protection. I came here expecting a chance. That's all I've ever asked for. And if the chance isn't enough, if you wake up one morning and realize this life is too hard, too lonely, too far from everything you knew, then I'll still be here. Clara met his eyes without flinching. Because I made a promise when I got on that stagecoach. Not to you, to myself. I promised that wherever I landed I would stay. I would fight. I would build something worth having. And I don't break my promises, Mr. Callahan. Not to myself, and not to little girls who pray for someone kind. The silence stretched between them. Tom's chest rose and fell. His eyes searched her face, looking for deception, for weakness, for any sign that her words were empty. He found none. Call me Tom, he said finally. Only if you call me Clara. The ghost of a smile crossed his face. Fair enough. He turned toward the door, then paused. Supper's getting cold. Ida doesn't like it when people let her cooking go cold. Clara gathered herself, straightening her patched dress, smoothing her hair. I wouldn't want to offend Mrs. Brennan. Ida, she told you. She did. Tom nodded. Come on then, let's eat. They walked down the hallway together, not touching, not speaking, but somehow more connected than they'd been an hour ago. In the kitchen, Lily sat at the table, swinging her feet, Dusty propped beside her plate. Ida ladled stew into bowls while muttering about cold weather and stubborn men who took too long in the barn. There you are. Sit, eat, before it's completely ruined. Clara took the seat Lily pointed to directly across from Tom. The girl beamed. Miss Clara, watch. I can say grace all by myself. I'd love to hear it. Lily folded her hands, bowed her head, and spoke in a clear, serious voice. Dear God, thank you for this food. Thank you for Papa and Ida and Biscuit. And thank you for finally sending Miss Clara. Please help her stay forever. Amen. Clara's eyes burned. Across the table, Tom's jaw tightened. But when he looked up, when his eyes met Clara's, she saw something new there. Something that hadn't existed before. Hope. It was small, fragile, uncertain. But it was there. The stew was hot and hearty, thick with beef and vegetables. Clara ate slowly, savoring each bite. She couldn't remember her last proper meal. Lily chatted through supper, telling Clara about Biscuit's latest adventures, about the calf that was born last month, about the Christmas play at the church where she would be an angel. Do you sing, Miss Clara? A little. Maybe you can help me practice my song. Papa tries, but he sounds like a bullfrog. Tom choked on his coffee. Ida laughed a warm, unexpected sound. "She's not wrong," Ida said. "I've heard him try to sing, frightened the horses." Clara smiled her first real smile in weeks. "I'd be happy to help you practice, Lily." "Really? Really?" The girl bounced in her seat, radiant with joy. Supper ended. Ida shooed everyone from the kitchen. Lily demanded a story before bed, and somehow Clara found herself sitting beside the girl's bed, spinning tales of a cat named Marmalade, who had adventures in a land of mice kings and cheese castles. Tom stood in the doorway watching. His expression was soft, unguarded, in a way Clara hadn't seen before. When Lily finally fell asleep, Clara rose quietly, turning toward the door. "She likes you." Tom's voice was barely above a whisper. "I like her." "I can tell." He stepped back to let her pass. "Good night, Clara." "Good night, Tom." She walked to her room, closed the door, leaned against it. Her heart was racing. Her hands were shaking. But for the first time in months, the feeling wasn't fear. It was something else entirely. Clara changed into her worn nightgown, slipped beneath the blue quilt, and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The town's judgment. Tom's doubts. Lily's fragile hope that Clara would stay. But tonight, for this one moment, Clara allowed herself to believe. Maybe God did listen to little girl's prayers. Maybe this could be home. Maybe she had finally found the place where she was meant to be. The fire crackled in the hearth. The wind whispered against the windows, and Clara Whitmore, who had arrived with nothing but her integrity, fell asleep dreaming of roses blooming in winter. Morning came with pale winter light, and the smell of coffee drifting through the house. Clara woke disoriented, her heart pounding before she remembered where she was. The blue quilt. The winter roses on the dresser. The distant sound of boots on wooden floors. She dressed quickly in her better dress, the one with fewer patches, and braided her hair with practiced fingers. The mirror showed her a face pale from months of worry, eyes shadowed from restless sleep. But her chin was steady, her spine was straight. She would not hide. The kitchen was warm and bright. Ida stood at the stove flipping pancakes. Lily sat at the table, still in her nightgown, drawing pictures on a slate. "Miss Clara." The girl's face lit up. "You're awake." "Look, I drew Biscuit." Clara crossed to the table and examined the drawing. A round blob with 4 stick legs and what might have been ears. "He looks very handsome." "Papa says my drawings need work, but Ida says they have character." "Character is more important than perfection." Clara sat beside her. "May I try?" Lily handed over the chalk eagerly. Clara drew a few quick lines, adding definition to the ears, suggesting fur with soft strokes. Lily watched, mesmerized. "How did you do that?" "Practice. I used to teach drawing to young ladies in St. Louis." "You were a teacher. For 3 years." Lily's eyes went wide. "Can you teach me? If your papa says it's all right." "Papa?" Lily shouted, making Clara jump. "Papa, come here!" Tom appeared in the doorway, already dressed for work, his coat dusted with snow. He'd been outside, Clara realized, working before dawn. "What is it, little bird?" Miss Clara was a teacher, a real teacher. She can draw and everything. "Can she teach me?" "Please." Tom's eyes moved to Clara, to the slate, to his daughter's hopeful face. "That's up to Miss Clara." "I'd be happy to," Clara said. "If there's time between other duties." Something shifted in Tom's expression. Approval, maybe, or the beginning of it. "There's always time for learning." He turned to Ida. "I'll be in the north pasture most of the day. Don't expect me for lunch." "You'll eat something before you go," Ida said firmly. "Sit." Tom sat. Clara noticed he took the chair farthest from her, maintaining distance, even at the breakfast table. Ida set plates before them. Pancakes, bacon, eggs. More food than Clara had seen in weeks. Her stomach cramped with hunger, but she forced herself to eat slowly, carefully. She would not be seen as desperate. "Miss Clara," Lily tugged at her sleeve. After breakfast, can I show you the barn, and Biscuit, and the new calf? Lily. Tom's voice was gentle but firm. Miss Clara needs to settle in. Don't overwhelm her. It's all right, Clara said. I'd love to see the barn. Lily beamed. Tom said nothing, but Clara caught him watching her over his coffee cup, his expression unreadable. Breakfast ended. Tom left for the pasture. Ida began clearing dishes. Clara stood. Let me help. Ida waved her off. You're a guest. I'm not a guest. Clara hesitated. What was she? Not a wife, not yet. Maybe not ever. I'm here to be useful. Please, let me help. Ida studied her for a long moment. Then she handed Clara a dish towel. Fine, you dry. They worked in silence, washing and drying, the rhythm familiar and soothing. Clara had done this 1,000 times in her father's house before everything fell apart. You've worked hard before. Ida's voice was matter-of-fact. I can tell. I wasn't always poor, Mrs. Brennan, Ida, but I was never idle. What happened? Clara dried a plate, carefully setting it on the stack. My father was a merchant, respected, comfortable. When he died, I discovered he'd been hiding debts for years. Everything went to creditors. I sold what I could, paid what I owed, and had nothing left. Nothing. My integrity, my education, my willingness to work. Clara met Ida's eyes. I know that doesn't look like much. Ida snorted. It looks like more than most folks have. She handed Clara another dish. Tom's had women after him for years, you know. Rich widows. Pretty young things from good families. He turned them all down. Clara's heart skipped. Why? Said they were too interested in his ranch and not interested enough in Lily. Ida's shrewd eyes fixed on Clara. That little girl is everything to him. He built all this for her, adopted her when he didn't have to, gave her his name, his home, his heart. He loves her. More than his own life. Ida lowered her voice. But loving a child and raising one alone are different things. Tom knows that. He's seen the way Lily looks at other girls with their mothers, the questions she asks about why her own mama left. Clara's throat tightened. She asked me last night if I was going to stay. What did you tell her? The truth. That I want to, but it's not just up to me. Ida nodded slowly. Good. That child's been lied to enough. Her birth mother promised to come back. Never did. Her first daddy promised to always be there. Then he died. She set down the dish rag and faced Clara directly. If you're going to leave, leave now, before she gets any more attached, before Tom does. Tom isn't attached to me. Ida laughed short and sharp. Honey, that man stood at his window for an hour last night watching your light. He's been stone cold since I've known him. Never looked at a woman twice. But he looks at you like you're a puzzle he can't figure out. She patted Clara's arm. Give him time. He's been alone so long he's forgotten how to let anyone in. Before Clara could respond, Lily burst through the kitchen door. Miss Clara, are you ready? Biscuit wants to meet you. Ida shooed them toward the door. Go on, I'll finish here. Clara let Lily lead her outside into the bright, cold morning. The snow had stopped overnight, leaving the world white and glittering. Lily ran ahead, her braids bouncing, her laughter ringing across the frozen yard. The barn was large and warm, smelling of hay and animals. Biscuit turned out to be a small brown dog with floppy ears and an enthusiastic tail. He launched himself at Clara the moment she entered, licking her hands, her face, her patched dress. Biscuit, no. Lily grabbed his collar. Sorry, he gets excited. Clara knelt, letting the dog sniff her properly. Hello, Biscuit. I've heard a lot about you. The dog's tail wagged so hard his whole body shook. He flopped onto his back, offering his belly. He likes you. Lily clapped her hands. He doesn't like everyone. He bit Mr. Crawford once. Mr. Crawford? The banker. He comes sometimes to talk to Papa about money stuff. Biscuit doesn't trust him. Lily leaned close, whispering. I don't either. He smiles, but his eyes don't smile. Do you know what I mean? Clara knew exactly what she meant. Some people are like that. It's smart to notice. That's what Papa says. Lily tugged Clara deeper into the barn. Come see the calf. Her name is Snowflake because she was born during a storm. They spent an hour in the barn, visiting animals, exploring corners, listening to Lily's endless chatter. Clara learned about every horse, every cow, every chicken. She learned about Lily's favorite hiding spots, and the cat who lived in the hayloft, and the owl who hooted at night. By the time they returned to the house, Clara's cheeks were pink with cold, and her heart was lighter than it had been in months. Miss Clara? Lily held her hand as they walked. What was your mama like? The question caught Clara off guard. She was kind, gentle. She taught me to sew and cook and read. She died when I was 12. That's sad. Yes, but I remember her. That's what matters. I don't remember my mama at all. Lily's voice was small. Sometimes I try really hard, but there's nothing there. Just empty. Clara stopped, knelt in the snow, took Lily's hands in hers. That's not your fault. You were very young when she left. Papa says she wasn't ready to be a mother, that it wasn't about me. Lily's eyes glistened. But sometimes I think maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe if I'd been better. No. Clara's voice was fierce. Listen to me, Lily. Some people can't love the way they should. It's broken inside them. But that brokenness is theirs, not yours. You are good enough. You have always been good enough. Tears spilled down Lily's cheeks. Promise. I promise. Clara pulled the girl into her arms, held her tight against the cold. And I don't break my promises. Not ever. They stayed like that for a long moment, two lost souls holding each other in the snow. When they finally went inside, Ida took one look at them and sent Lily to wash her face while fixing Clara with a knowing stare. You're good with her. Clara shed her shawl, hung it by the fire. She's easy to love. So are you. Ida's voice was soft, almost gentle. Tom sees it, even if he won't admit it yet. The days that followed took on a rhythm. Clara rose early, helped Ida with breakfast, spent mornings teaching Lily letters and numbers and drawing. Afternoons she worked beside Ida, learning the house's routines, proving her usefulness in 100 small ways. She mended the curtains in the parlor, repaired the hem of Lily's church dress, organized the pantry with efficiency that made Ida nod with approval. She wasn't afraid of hard work. She never had been. Tom watched from his careful distance. He ate meals with them, asked Lily about her lessons, listened to her excited reports of Clara's teaching. But he rarely addressed Clara directly, rarely stayed in a room with her longer than necessary. Still, she caught him looking, caught the questions in his eyes, the uncertainty, the cautious hope he couldn't quite hide. On the fourth day, the banker came to call. Clara was in the parlor helping Lily practice her letters when she heard hooves in the yard. Biscuit erupted in barks, pressing against Lily's legs. That's Mr. Crawford. Lily's face clouded. I don't like him. Lily! Clara kept her voice calm. Remember what we talked about. You don't have to like everyone, but you must be polite. Tom emerged from his study, his expression tight. He opened the front door before Crawford could knock. Silas, wasn't expecting you. Just a friendly visit. The man who stepped inside was tall and lean, dressed in clothes too fine for ranch country. His smile was wide, his teeth too white, his eyes sweeping the room until they landed on Clara. Well, this must be the mail-order bride. Clara rose, her spine straight. Clara Whitmore. Silas Crawford. He removed his hat, still smiling that empty smile. I've heard quite a bit about you. I imagine you have. Something flickered in his eyes. Interest maybe, or challenge. The whole town's been talking. Tom Callahan's mysterious bride arriving on Christmas Eve. His gaze traveled over her dress, her mended sleeves, her practical shoes. The stories don't do you justice. Stories rarely do. Tom stepped between them, his shoulders tense. What brings you out, Silas? Business. As always. Crawford's attention shifted reluctantly from Clara to Tom. There's a matter we should discuss, privately. Tom glanced at Clara, at Lily, at the room that had been warm with learning moments before. My study. The men disappeared down the hall. Lily pressed against Clara's side. I told you, the girl whispered. His eyes don't smile. Clara stroked her hair. Some people are harder to read than others, but you're right to trust your instincts. They returned to their lessons, but Clara's mind was elsewhere. She heard the low murmur of voices from the study, too quiet to make out words, but sharp with tension. Once Tom's voice rose harsh and angry, before going quiet again. 20 minutes later, the study door opened. Crawford emerged, his smile still in place, but something cold beneath it. Miss Whitmore. He paused by the parlor door. A pleasure to meet you. I do hope you'll be staying. I intend to. Intentions are lovely things. He settled his hat on his head. But this territory has a way of testing them. I've seen many brides come and go. The life here is challenging. Clara met his eyes without flinching. I've faced challenges before, Mr. Crawford. I'm sure you have. He smiled again, that empty smile. But some challenges are harder than others. Good day, Miss Whitmore. Lily. He left. The door closed behind him. Biscuit growled low in his throat. Tom appeared in the hallway, his face dark with anger he was struggling to contain. Lily, go help Ida in the kitchen. But Papa. Now please. Lily went, dragging her feet, looking back at Clara with worried eyes. When they were alone, Tom crossed to the window, staring out at Crawford's retreating wagon. His hands were clenched at his sides. What did he want? Clara asked quietly. To remind me of my obligations. Tom's voice was bitter. To make sure I understand who holds power in this town. I don't understand. Tom turned. His eyes were dark with something she hadn't seen before. Crawford owns the bank. He holds mortgages on half the ranches in the territory. He's been after my land for years. After your land. There's a railroad coming through. Maybe next year, maybe the year after. The route will cross my property. Crawford wants to control it. Tom's jaw tightened. He's tried to buy me out 3 times. Each time I refused. So he's looking for other leverage. Tom met her eyes. He asked about you. Clara's stomach dropped. What about me? Your circumstances, your past, whether you were suitable. The word twisted with disgust. He suggested that a man of my standing shouldn't lower himself to marry a woman of questionable means. And what did you say? Tom's expression shifted. Something fierce flickered behind his careful mask. I told him that my choices were none of his concern, and that if he ever spoke about you that way again, he'd regret it. Clara's breath caught. You defended me. You're under my roof, under my protection. He paused, something vulnerable breaking through. I won't let anyone speak ill of you. Not in this house. Not anywhere I can prevent it. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The fire crackled. Wind pressed against the windows. Something unspoken hung between them, fragile and new. Thank you, Clara said finally. Tom nodded once, then turned back to the window. Crawford isn't wrong about one thing. This town talks. They've been talking since you arrived. I know. It will get worse. The longer you stay, the more they'll find to gossip about. He glanced at her. Sunday is the church social. Everyone will be there. Everyone will be watching. Are you telling me not to go? I'm telling you what to expect. His voice gentled. But the choice is yours. It always will be. Clara straightened her shoulders. Then I'll go. And I'll hold my head high. Let them talk. Something crossed Tom's face. Surprise, maybe. Or respect. You're not like other women I've known. Is that good or bad? He almost smiled. Almost. I'm still figuring that out. Sunday arrived with clear skies and bitter cold. Clara wore her better dress pressed and mended until it looked almost respectable. Ida had found her a shawl warmer than her own, and Clara accepted it gratefully. The ride to town was quiet. Lily sat between them, nervous and excited, clutching Dusty in her lap. Tom handled the horses with easy skill, his face revealing nothing. Clara watched the landscape pass white fields and dark pines, distant mountains, sharp against the blue sky. Beautiful and brutal. This territory would not be gentle to her. But then, nothing had been gentle to her for a long time. The church was small and whitewashed, its steeple rising against the winter sky. Wagons crowded the yard. Families in their Sunday best streamed toward the doors. Tom helped Clara down from the wagon. His hand was warm and steady, lingering a moment longer than necessary before he released her. Ready. Ready. They walked toward the church. Clara felt the eyes on her immediately. Whispers rose like wind through grass. She heard fragments sharp and cruel. That's her. Look at that dress. Practically rags. Poor Tom. What was he thinking? She kept her chin up her spine straight. Lily held her hand tight. Ignore them, the girl whispered. They're just mean. Some people are, but we're not. Inside the church was warm and crowded. Tom guided them to a pew near the front, ignoring the stares that followed. Clara sat beside him, Lily between them, painfully aware of every eye fixed on her back. The service passed in a blur. Clara heard little of the sermon. She was too conscious of the whispers, the glances, the weight of judgment pressing down on her. When it ended, the congregation spilled into the yard for the social. Tables had been set up laden with food. Children ran and laughed. Adults gathered in clusters, conversation buzzing. Tom was immediately claimed by a group of ranchers pulled away to discuss cattle prices and weather predictions. Clara stood alone with Lily, vulnerable and exposed. A woman approached. Clara recognized her from the platform the first day, expensive fur, sharp smile eyes like chips of ice. Widow Mason, she'd learned. The town's self-appointed arbiter of respectability. Miss Whitmore. The widow's voice carried, designed to be overheard. How are you finding our little community? Everyone has been very welcoming. Has Tom treated you well? Given you proper clothes yet? The insult was barely veiled. Clara felt heat rise in her cheeks, but kept her voice steady. Mr. Callahan has been a generous host. I'm sure he has. Though I do wonder. The widow leaned closer, voice dropping to a stage whisper. What exactly you offered in exchange for such generosity? Clara's breath caught. The implication was clear, ugly, impossible to miss. Before she could respond, another voice cut through the tension. Mrs. Mason. Ida appeared at Clara's side, her expression pleasant, but her eyes hard. I believe your pie is burning. I could smell it from across the yard. The widow's face flushed. I don't. Best check on it. Wouldn't want another disaster like last year's church picnic. Mrs. Mason retreated, her dignity in tatters. Ida watched her go, then turned to Clara with a grim smile. Don't let her get to you. That woman's been spreading poison since before I was born. She thinks I'm... Clara couldn't finish the sentence. She thinks whatever makes her feel superior. That's her nature. Ida squeezed Clara's arm. You just keep being who you are. The people worth knowing will see it. Lily tugged at Clara's hand. Miss Clara, can we get some cake, please? Clara let the girl lead her toward the food tables, grateful for the distraction. She filled a plate, handed Lily a slice of apple cake, tried to smile through the tightness in her chest. Miss Whitmore. A man's voice, smooth and cultured. Clara turned to find Silas Crawford standing behind her, his hat in his hands, his smile fixed in place. Mr. Crawford. I hoped I'd see you today. He stepped closer, crowding her space. I've been thinking about our conversation. Have you? A woman of your background must find this situation difficult. New town, new people, new expectations. His voice dropped intimate and oily. If you ever need a friend, someone who understands the challenges you face, my door is always open. Clara's skin crawled. That's very kind, but I have all the friends I need. Crawford's smile tightened. To you, Tom Callahan is many things, but he's not known for warmth. A man like that, cold, distant, too focused on his land and his orphan girl, he can't give you what you need. And what do I need, Mr. Crawford? Security, position, someone who appreciates your qualities. He moved closer still. Tom sees a housekeeper, a governess for his charity case. I see something more. What do you see? A woman who deserves better than charity. A woman who could be a partner, not a servant. His hand brushed her elbow. Think about it, Miss Whitmore. My offer stands. Hey! Tom's voice cut through the air like a blade. He stood 10 feet away, his face dark with controlled fury. Crawford stepped back smoothly, his mask sliding into place. Tom, we were just chatting. Were you? It wasn't a question. Tom crossed to Clara's side, positioning himself between her and the banker. Clara, Lily's looking for you. Clara didn't need to be told twice. She moved past Crawford, her heart pounding her skin, still crawling from his touch. Behind her, she heard Tom's voice, low and dangerous. Stay away from her, Silas. She's not your wife yet, Tom. She's under my protection. That's all that matters. Clara gathered Lily, guided her away from the tension. But she couldn't stop thinking about Crawford's words, about the threat that lurked beneath his smooth smile. He would be a problem. She knew it in her bones. And she had no idea how to stop him. The ride home was silent. Tom's jaw was tight, his hands white-knuckled on the reins. Lily dozed between them, exhausted from the day's excitement. When they reached the ranch, Tom lifted Lily from the wagon and carried her inside. Clara followed, her mind churning. She helped Ida put Lily to bed, then retreated to the parlor, staring into the fire without seeing it. Footsteps behind her. Tom's voice rough and tired. I'm sorry about Crawford. Clara didn't turn. It's not your fault. It is. I should have warned you, should have kept you closer. You can't protect me from everything. I can try. He moved beside her, staring into the same flames. Silas Crawford is dangerous. He wants my land, and he'll use anything to get it. Anyone. Including me. Including you. Tom's voice dropped. I won't let him hurt you, Clara. Whatever it takes. She looked at him, then at this man who had been cold and distant, who was now standing beside her with fire in his eyes and fear in his voice. Why? She asked. I'm nothing to you. A stranger who arrived in rags. Why do you care what happens to me? Tom was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. Because my daughter loves you. Because Ida trusts you. Because you came here with nothing and offered everything. He turned to face her, his eyes dark and vulnerable. And because God help me, I can't stop thinking about you. Clara's heart stopped. Tom, I know this wasn't supposed to happen. I wrote that advertisement looking for help, not... He broke off, ran a hand through his hair. I don't know how to do this. I've been alone so long I've forgotten how to feel anything except responsibility. That's not true. I've seen you with Lily. You feel deeply. For her. Only for her. His voice cracked. Until now. The fire crackled. The wind pressed against the windows. Two people stood in the warm light. Everything between them changed. Clara reached out, touched his hand. His fingers closed around hers, strong and trembling. I'm scared too, she whispered. Terrified, actually. But for the first time in months, I'm scared of losing something, not just surviving. Tom's free hand rose, hesitated, then brushed a strand of hair from her face. His touch was gentle, reverent. Stay, he said. Not because of the arrangement. Not because you have nowhere else to go. Stay because you want to. Clara looked into his eyes and saw everything he couldn't say. The loneliness, the hope, the desperate need to believe that someone could love him for who he was, not what he had. "I want to," she said. And for the first time since she'd known him, Thomas Callahan smiled. It transformed his face, softened the hard lines, lit his dark eyes with warmth she'd never seen. "Then stay." "I will." They stood there, hands clasped, smiles trembling, while the fire burned low and the night deepened around them. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Crawford's threats, the town's whispers, the uncertain path ahead. But tonight, two lonely hearts had found each other, and that was enough. The days after the church social passed in fragile peace. Tom still kept his distance during daylight hours, but evenings found them together in the parlor, talking quietly while Lily slept. They spoke of small things at first: his cattle, her teaching, the weather that threatened more snow. But slowly, carefully, they began to share deeper truths. Clara learned that Tom had built his ranch from nothing, working as a hired hand, until he saved enough to buy his first 10 acres. She learned about his mother, who had worked herself to death, and his father, who had abandoned the family without a word. She learned why he kept everyone at arm's length, why trust came so hard to him. And she told him her own stories, about her father's slow decline into debt and denial, about the creditors who had come the day after his funeral before she'd even dried her tears, about selling her mother's jewelry piece by piece until nothing remained but the locket she still wore against her heart. They didn't touch again after that night by the fire, but something had shifted between them, a wall crumbling brick by brick. Lily noticed. Children always noticed. "Papa smiles now," she told Clara one morning while practicing her letters. "He didn't used to smile. Ida says you're good for him." "Ida talks too much." "She says that too." Lily grinned. "Miss Clara, are you going to marry Papa?" Clara's pen slipped, leaving a dark blot on the paper. "That's a complicated question, sweetheart. Why, you live here. You take care of us. Papa looks at you the way Mr. Henderson looks at Mrs. Henderson at church. How does he look at her? Like she's a present he can't believe he gets to keep." Clara's heart clenched. "Where did you hear that?" "I made it up." Lily looked proud. "Am I good with words?" "You're very good with words." The front door opened with a blast of cold air. Tom stamped snow from his boots, his face ruddy from the wind. He paused when he saw them at the table, and something softened in his expression. "Hard at work." "Miss Clara says I'm good with words," Lily announced. "She's right." Tom crossed to them, ruffling Lily's hair. His hand brushed Clara's shoulder as he passed the touch, brief and deliberate. "I'm riding into town for supplies. Need anything?" "Ida has a list." He nodded but didn't move. His eyes held Clara's, full of things unsaid. "I won't be long." "Be careful. The roads are bad." "Always am." He left, and Clara found herself staring at the closed door long after the sound of hooves faded. Tom didn't return that afternoon. By evening, Clara found herself pacing the parlor while Ida pretended not to notice. Lily had been put to bed early, sensing the tension in the house. "He's probably just waiting out the weather," Ida said, not looking up from her mending. "It's been hours. Tom knows these roads better than anyone. He's fine." But Clara heard the worry beneath Ida's calm words. The older woman's needle moved faster than usual, her stitches tight and uneven. The clock struck 8, then 9. Clara's pacing grew more frantic. "I'm going to look for him." "In this weather? Don't be foolish." "Something's wrong. I can feel it." Before Ida could argue, hooves sounded in the yard. Clara flew to the door, yanking it open. Tom half fell from his horse, catching himself on the porch rail. His face was pale, his left arm pressed against his side. Dark stains spread across his coat. "Tom!" Clara ran to him, catching him as he stumbled. "What happened?" "Ambush. 3 miles out." His voice was strained, his breathing shallow. 2 men. Didn't see their faces. You're hurt. Just a graze. I'm fine. He wasn't fine. When Clara helped him inside, she saw the blood soaking through his shirt, the way he winced with every step. Ida, get hot water and bandages. Now! For once, Ida didn't argue. She disappeared into the kitchen while Clara guided Tom to a chair by the fire. Let me see. Clara, it's nothing. Let me see. He stopped protesting. Clara unbuttoned his coat, peeled back his blood-soaked shirt. The wound was on his side, a long gash from a knife still bleeding freely. This needs stitching. Ida can do it. I can do it. I helped the doctor in St. Louis during the fever epidemic. Clara's hands were steady, despite the fear churning in her stomach. I've sewn up worse than this. Tom looked at her, something like wonder in his pain-glazed eyes. You're full of surprises. You have no idea. Ida returned with supplies. Clara worked quickly, cleaning the wound, threading the needle with practiced fingers. Tom didn't make a sound as she stitched, though his jaw was clenched tight and sweat beaded on his forehead. Almost done. You're doing well. You're doing well, he corrected. I'm just sitting here bleeding. Despite everything, Clara laughed. There. Finished. She tied off the thread, applied a clean bandage. Her hands lingered on his skin, feeling the warmth of him, the steady rhythm of his breathing. Who did this? I told you, didn't see their faces. But you have suspicions. Tom was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was hard. Crawford's been trying to force me out for years, buying up water rights, blocking access to grazing land, legal tricks and dirty deals. You think he hired men to attack you? I think he's getting desperate. The railroad surveyors came through last month. The route is confirmed. My land is worth 10 times what it was. Tom's hand found Clara's, gripped it tight. He'll do anything to get it. Then we go to the sheriff. The sheriff plays poker with Crawford every Friday night. Half the town owes him money. Tom's eyes were dark with frustration. There's no proof. Just my word against his. So what do? We wait, we watch, and we don't let our guard down. Clara's mind raced. Crawford's oily smile, his threats at the church social, the way he'd looked at her like she was a piece in his game. He mentioned me, she said slowly. At the social, he said you weren't my husband yet, like he was already planning something. Tom's grip tightened. What exactly did he say? That I deserved better than charity, that he could offer me security. The word hung in the air, ugly and loaded. He's trying to get to me through you. Tom's voice was low, dangerous. If he can't take my land, he'll take everything else. I'm not a thing to be taken. I know that. But Crawford doesn't see people. He sees opportunities. Tom pulled her closer, his wounded side forgotten. Clara, I need you to be careful. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't trust anyone from town. I can take care of myself. I know you can. But I can't. His voice cracked. I can't lose you. Not now. Not when I've finally... He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Clara leaned forward and pressed her lips to his forehead, a gesture of comfort, of promise. You won't lose me. I'm not going anywhere. They stayed like that for a long moment, her hand in his, her lips against his skin. Then Ida cleared her throat from the doorway. If you two are done, he needs to rest. Doctor's orders. I don't remember you getting a medical degree, Tom said dryly. Don't need one to know when a stubborn man is pushing himself too hard. Ida fixed him with a stern look. Bed. Now. Tom let Clara help him to his room, leaning on her more than he wanted to admit. At the door, he paused. Thank you for patching me up. Thank you for coming home. His hand rose, cupped her cheek. I'll always come home, as long as you're here waiting. He disappeared into his room, and Clara stood in the dark hallway, her heart full of feelings she couldn't name. Morning brought new troubles. Clara woke to raised voices in the kitchen. She dressed quickly, braided her hair with shaking fingers, and hurried toward the noise. Ida stood at the stove, her back rigid with anger. Across from her, a young man Clara didn't recognize twisted his hat in his hands. "What's going on?" The young man jumped. "Miss, I'm just the messenger. Don't shoot me." "What message?" Ida turned her face pale. "Mr. Crawford has called in Tom's loan." Clara's blood went cold. "What loan?" "From 3 years ago. Tom borrowed to expand the ranch, buy more cattle. He's been paying it back regular, never missed a payment." Ida's voice shook with fury. "But there's a clause. If the bank determines the borrower is a risk, they can demand full repayment within 30 days. And Crawford just determined Tom is a risk. The day after someone tried to kill him. Funny coincidence, isn't it?" Clara took the paper from Ida's hands. The words blurred before her eyes. 30 days. Full balance due. Failure to pay will result in seizure of property and assets. "How much does he owe?" Ida told her. Clara's stomach dropped. It was more than she'd ever seen. More than her father had lost. More than seemed possible for one man to pay. "Can he get it?" "Not in 30 days. Not without selling half the herd. And even then..." Ida shook her head. "Crawford planned this. He's been waiting for the right moment." Clara's hands clenched around the paper. "Where's Tom?" "In the barn, trying to work with that wound half-healed. Fool man." Clara found him exactly where Ida said. He stood at his workbench, one hand pressed against his injured side, the other gripping the wood like it was the only thing keeping him upright. "You should be in bed." He didn't turn. "Heard the messenger come." "Then you know." "Yeah, I know." His voice was flat dead. 3 years of work. Everything I built. Gone in 30 days. Clara moved to stand beside him. "There has to be another way. Other banks, other lenders." "Crawford owns the only bank in 50 miles, and he's got friends in the others." Tom's laugh was bitter. "He's had this planned from the beginning. The loan, the clause, the attack. All of it. We can fight him. With what I've got cattle I can't sell fast enough and land that's worthless without water rights he controls." Tom finally looked at her, and she saw something terrible in his eyes. Defeat. "It's over, Clara." "Don't say that." "Why not?" "It's true. I've lost." "You haven't lost anything yet." Clara grabbed his arm, forced him to face her fully. "Thomas Callahan, I did not travel 1,000 miles to watch you give up. I did not stitch your wounds and warm your bed and love your daughter just to see you surrender without a fight." His eyes widened. "Clara, no. Listen to me. I have lost everything. My home, my family, my future. I arrived on your doorstep with nothing but the clothes on my back and my integrity. And I am still here, still fighting. Still believing that tomorrow can be better than today." Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "If you give up, what do I tell Lily? That her papa stopped trying. That the man who adopted her, who loved her, who built her a home, just gave it away. Because some banker told him to. That's not fair. None of this is fair. Life isn't fair. But we don't get to quit because it's hard." She took his face in her hands, made him look at her. "You taught me that. Every letter you wrote, every word about building something from nothing. You showed me that a person's worth isn't measured by what they have, but by what they're willing to fight for." Tom's eyes glistened. "I don't know how to win this." "Then we figure it out together. That's what partners do." For a long moment, he stared at her. Then slowly, carefully, his arms came around her, pulling her close despite his wounded side. "When did you get so brave?" "I was always brave. You just weren't paying attention." He laughed, a broken sound that was half sob. "I was paying attention. I've been paying attention since the moment you stepped off that stagecoach. She held him while he shook, while the fear and exhaustion of the past days finally broke through his defenses. And when he pulled back, there was something new in his eyes. Not defeat. Not surrender. Determination. "All right," he said. "We fight." The next 2 weeks were a blur of activity. Tom rode out every day, visiting neighboring ranches, calling in favors, trying to scrape together enough to satisfy Crawford's demand. Clara took over the household, completely freeing Ida to help with the books, searching for any solution they might have missed. Lily sensed the tension but didn't understand it. Clara tried to shield her from the worst of it, maintaining their lessons, keeping their routines. But the girl was smart. "Something's wrong," she said one afternoon. "Papa's worried. You're worried. Even Biscuit is worried." "We're just busy, sweetheart." "You're lying." Lily's voice was matter-of-fact. "Papa says lying is wrong." Clara sighed. "You're right. I'm sorry." She pulled Lily close. "There's a man who wants to take our ranch. Papa is trying to stop him." "Mr. Crawford." "Yes. How did you know?" "Biscuit doesn't like him. And Biscuit is always right about people." Clara managed a smile. "Biscuit is very wise." "Will we have to leave?" Lily's voice trembled. "Will you have to leave?" "I'm not leaving, no matter what happens." "Promise." Clara kissed her forehead. "Promise." But as the days passed, hope grew thin. Tom returned each evening more exhausted, more discouraged. The ranchers sympathized, but times were hard. No one had money to spare. With 1 week left, they were still short. Far short. "There has to be something," Clara said, pacing the parlor while Tom slumped in his chair. "Some asset we haven't considered." "I've considered everything. The cattle, the horses, the equipment. Even if I sold it all, it wouldn't be enough." "What about the land itself? Could you sell part of it?" "To who Crawford scared off every potential buyer. No one will touch property he's got his eye on." Clara stopped pacing. An idea was forming, terrible and brilliant. "What if I talk to him?" "To Crawford, absolutely not. He wants something from me. He made that clear at the social. What if I could convince him to extend the deadline? Give us more time. And what would you offer in return?" Tom's voice was sharp with fear. "No, I won't let you sacrifice yourself for my problems." "It's not sacrifice if it's my choice. And these aren't your problems anymore. They're our problems." Clara knelt before him, taking his hands. "Let me try. What's the worst that could happen? He could hurt you. He could—" Tom's voice broke. "Clara, I've lost too much already. I can't lose you too." "You won't. I'm stronger than you think." She went the next morning. Tom argued, pleaded, nearly forbade her. But Clara was unmoved. This was her fight too, and she would face it on her own terms. The bank was a solid brick building in the center of town. Clara climbed the steps with her head high, ignoring the stares of passers-by. The tellers watched her cross the lobby, their whispers following like flies. "Miss Whitmore." Crawford rose from behind his desk, his smile spreading like oil on water. What a pleasant surprise. "Mr. Crawford, I've come to discuss Tom Callahan's loan." "Ah." He gestured to a chair. "Please sit. May I offer you tea?" "This isn't a social call." "No, I suppose not." He settled back in his chair, studying her with those cold, smiling eyes. "You've come to beg for more time. I've come to negotiate." "With what? You have nothing to offer." Clara met his gaze without flinching. "I have something you want." Crawford's smile widened. You've been clear about your interest in me, at the social, in your conversation with Tom." Clara kept her voice steady, despite the revulsion churning in her stomach. "I'm here to discuss terms." For a long moment, Crawford said nothing. Then he laughed, a cold, ugly sound. Miss Whitmore, you surprise me. I expected tears and pleading, not negotiation. He leaned forward, his eyes hungry. What exactly are you proposing? Clara's heart pounded. She was walking a razor's edge, and one wrong step would cut her to pieces. I'm proposing that you extend the loan deadline by 6 months. In exchange, I'll consider your previous offer to discuss a different arrangement. Crawford's tongue darted across his lips. You would leave Callahan come to me. I'm discussing possibilities, not making promises. That's not good enough. Crawford rose, circled his desk, came to stand too close to her chair. I want more than possibilities. Clara forced herself not to flinch. What do you want? Dinner, tomorrow night, at my home, alone. And if I agree, I'll extend the deadline. Give your precious rancher 3 more months. Clara's stomach turned. Dinner alone with this man. The implications were clear. But 3 months. 3 months to find another solution, to save the ranch, to save her family. 1 dinner, that's all. For now. Crawford's smile sharpened. We'll discuss future arrangements over the meal. Clara rose, putting distance between them. Tomorrow night. What time? 7. I'll send a carriage. I'll make my own way. She left without looking back, feeling his eyes on her like a physical weight. Outside she walked until she found an alley, then leaned against the wall and let the shaking take her. What had she done? What had she agreed to? But when she thought of Tom's face, of Lily's voice, asking if they would have to leave, she straightened her spine and dried her eyes. She would do whatever it took to save her family, even if it destroyed her. Tom was waiting when she returned, his face pale with worry. What happened? What did he say? Clara couldn't meet his eyes. He agreed to extend the deadline. 3 more months. 3 months. Clara, that's wonderful. Tom grabbed her hands, relief flooding his features. How did you convince him? I negotiated. With what? The silence stretched. Tom's relief faded, replaced by growing horror. Clara, what did you promise him? Nothing, just dinner. Tomorrow night. Tom dropped her hands like they burned. Dinner. It's just a meal. I can handle him. Alone. At his house. Tom's voice rose. Do you have any idea what that means? What he'll expect? I know exactly what it means, and I'm doing it anyway. The hell you are. Tom's face was dark with fury. I won't let you prostitute yourself to save my ranch. The word hit Clara like a slap. Is that what you think of me? No, it's what I think of him, of what he'll try to do. I'm not naive, Tom. I know what kind of man Crawford is, but I also know what I'm capable of handling. Clara's voice hardened. I survived poverty. I survived humiliation. I survived arriving in rags to a town that despised me. I can survive 1 dinner. And if he doesn't stop at dinner, if he tries to, then I'll handle it. How? Clara reached into her pocket and pulled out a small derringer, pearl-handled and deadly. Tom stared. Where did you get that? It was my father's. The one thing the creditors didn't find. She met his eyes steadily. I told you I could take care of myself. For a long moment Tom said nothing. Then he crossed to her, cupped her face in his hands. You are the bravest woman I've ever known. Does that mean you'll let me go? His jaw tightened. It means I'll be waiting outside. If anything goes wrong, anything at all, you fire that gun, and I will tear that house apart to get to you. Clara covered his hands with hers. I know you will. Promise me something. Anything. If he tries to hurt you, don't hesitate. Don't negotiate. Just shoot him. Clara smiled, grim and determined. I promise. Tomorrow would bring the confrontation she dreaded. Tomorrow would test everything she had. But tonight, she had this. Tom's hands on her face, his fear for her safety, his faith in her strength. It was enough. It had to be enough. The evening came too fast and too slow. Clara dressed carefully in her better dress, the one with fewer patches, her hair pinned back simply. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw a woman walking into battle. Lily had been told she was visiting a friend in town. The lie sat bitter on Clara's tongue, but she couldn't bear to explain the truth. Couldn't bear to see the fear in those young eyes. Tom waited by the wagon, his face carved from stone. He'd barely spoken all day, his silence heavy with everything he couldn't say. When Clara emerged from the house, he just looked at her, memorizing her face like he might never see it again. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." Clara touched his arm. "For Lily. For us." "There is no us if something happens to you." "Nothing's going to happen." She patted her pocket where the derringer rested, cold and reassuring. "I have insurance." Tom helped her into the wagon, his hands lingering on her waist. "I'll be outside, 2 streets over behind the old mercantile, if you need me." "One shot, I know." They rode in silence. The town was quiet in the winter evening, smoke rising from chimneys, lamplight glowing behind frost-covered windows. Normal people living normal lives, unaware of the storm about to break. Crawford's house stood at the edge of town, large and ostentatious, built to impress. Tom pulled the wagon to a stop 2 blocks away. "Clara!" She turned. Tom's face was pale in the fading light, his eyes dark with fear. "Come back to me." "I will." She climbed down before she could change her mind and walked toward the house without looking back. The door opened before she could knock. Crawford stood in the entrance, dressed in a fine suit, his smile wider than ever. "Miss Whitmore, punctual as always." "Mr. Crawford." He stepped aside, gesturing her in. The house was warm, too warm, filled with expensive furniture and heavy curtains. Everything designed to impress, to intimidate. "May I take your shawl?" "I'll keep it, thank you." Something flickered in his eyes. "As you wish. Dinner is nearly ready. Would you like some wine while we wait?" "Water, please." "Come now, Miss Whitmore. Surely 1 glass won't hurt." "Water." Crawford's smile tightened, but he poured her a glass from a crystal pitcher. Clara took it, watching him carefully. She wouldn't drink anything she hadn't seen poured, wouldn't eat anything he touched first. They moved to the parlor, Clara choosing a chair near the door. Crawford noticed his smile sharpening. "You seem nervous." "I'm cautious. There's a difference." "Is there?" He settled into the chair across from her, too close for comfort. "You fascinate me, Miss Whitmore. A woman of breeding and education, reduced to poverty, willing to negotiate with a man she clearly despises. What drives someone to such lengths?" "Love." The word hung between them. Crawford's eyes narrowed. "Love. For Tom Callahan, that cold, distant rancher who barely speaks. You don't know him. I know enough. I know he dragged you out here to be a nursemaid to his charity case. I know he's failing, drowning in debt, about to lose everything." Crawford leaned forward. "I know you could do better." Clara met his gaze steadily. "Better than a man who keeps his promises, who took in an orphan child and gave her a home, who works from dawn to dark to build something worth having. Better than a man who will have nothing in 3 months." "That depends on you, doesn't it?" Crawford sat back, studying her. "Indeed it does, which brings us to the matter at hand." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded paper. "The loan extension. 3 months as promised." Clara didn't reach for it. "What do you want in return?" "I told you, your consideration of my offer." "And if I've considered it and found it wanting?" The room went cold. Crawford's smile vanished, replaced by something hard and ugly. "Then perhaps I've been too subtle." He rose, moved closer. Clara's hand drifted toward her pocket. "I don't want your consideration, Miss Whitmore. I want you. Tonight." "That wasn't our agreement." "Our agreement was dinner. Dinner is about to be served." He stopped inches from her chair, looking down at her with predatory eyes. What happens after dinner is entirely up to you." Clara's heart pounded. Her fingers touched the cool metal of the derringer. "And if I refuse?" "Then the extension disappears. Tom Callahan loses his ranch. His precious little orphan ends up in an institution somewhere." Crawford's voice dropped silky and cruel. "And you end up back where you started. Alone. Poor. Desperate." "I was never desperate." "Weren't you?" He laughed. "You answered a mail-order bride advertisement. You traveled 1,000 miles to marry a stranger. If that's not desperation, what is it?" "Hope." Clara stood, forcing him to step back. "Something you clearly don't understand." Crawford's face darkened. "I understand plenty. I understand that you came here tonight because you had no other choice. I understand that you'll do whatever I ask because you can't stand the thought of watching that little girl lose her home." His hand shot out, gripping her arm. "I understand power, Miss Whitmore, and right now, I have all of it." Clara's free hand closed around the derringer. "Let go of me. Or what you'll scream, no one will hear you. You'll run. The doors are locked." His grip tightened. "You should have taken my offer when it was given kindly. Now you'll take it on my terms." He yanked her toward him. Clara twisted, pulled the derringer from her pocket, pressed it against his chest. "I said let go." Crawford froze. His eyes dropped to the gun, then rose to her face. For the first time, fear flickered behind his mask. "You wouldn't." "Try me." A long moment stretched between them. Then Crawford released her arm, stepping back with his hands raised. "Well, it seems I underestimated you. Most people do." Clara kept the gun steady. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign that extension. Then you're going to give me every document related to Tom Callahan's loan. Then you're going to forget this evening ever happened. And if I refuse, then I shoot you, claim you attacked me, and let the town decide who they believe." Clara smiled, cold and fierce. The wealthy banker with a reputation for shady dealings, or the mail-order bride who was just defending her honor? Crawford's jaw worked. "You think anyone would believe you?" "I think Mrs. Henderson would, and Mrs. Cooper, and all the other women in this town who've whispered about your wandering hands and inappropriate comments." Clara took a step forward, pressing her advantage. "I've been listening, Mr. Crawford. I've been paying attention. You've made a lot of enemies over the years. I'm just the first one willing to fight back." Something shifted in Crawford's expression. The confidence cracked, revealing the coward beneath. "What do you want?" "I told you. The extension, the documents, your silence. And then you leave us alone. Forever. No more schemes. No more attacks. No more threats." Clara's voice hardened. "If anything happens to Tom, to Lily, to anyone I care about, I will come back here. And next time, I won't give you a chance to negotiate." Crawford stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly, he laughed. "You're remarkable. Truly remarkable. Wasted on a man like Callahan. Sign the papers." He moved to his desk, pulled out documents, signed with quick, angry strokes. Clara watched every movement, the gun never wavering. When he finished, he thrust the papers at her. "There. Satisfied?" Clara took them, checked the signatures, the dates, the amounts. Everything was there. Everything Tom needed. Almost. She backed toward the door, keeping Crawford in sight. "One more thing." "What?" "The men you hired to attack Tom. Call them off." Crawford's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me. I've had enough lies to last a lifetime." Clara's finger tightened on the trigger. "Call them off, or I'll make sure the sheriff knows exactly who ordered that ambush." "You have no proof." "I have Tom's testimony. I have the timing of the attack. I have your desperate attempts to force a sale." Clara smiled grimly. "I may not have enough for a conviction, but I have enough for rumors. And in a town this small, rumors can be as deadly as bullets." Crawford's composure finally cracked. Fine, it's done. No one will touch him. Good. Clara reached the door, fumbled with the lock behind her. One last thing, Mr. Crawford. What now? Thank you for dinner. The company was enlightening. She slipped through the door and ran. Tom was waiting where he promised, the wagon already moving before Clara could climb fully aboard. He grabbed her arm, pulled her up, snapped the reins. Are you hurt? Did he touch you? Clara, talk to me. I'm fine. She was shaking, the adrenaline finally hitting. I'm fine. I got the papers, the extension, everything. How? Clara held up the derringer still clutched in her trembling hand. Insurance. Tom stared at her. Then he pulled the wagon to a stop, wrapped his arms around her, and held on like he would never let go. You terrified me. Every minute you were in there, I was dying. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just don't ever do that again. Clara laughed, half hysterical with relief. I don't plan to. They stayed there for a long moment, holding each other in the dark. Then Tom pulled back, cupped her face in his hands. You are the bravest, most stubborn, most incredible woman I have ever known. Is that a compliment? It's the truth. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, the corner of her mouth. I don't deserve you. Probably not. Clara smiled through her tears. But you're stuck with me anyway. They drove home through the dark. Clara pressed against Tom's side, the papers clutched in her lap. The ranch appeared through the trees, windows glowing with lamplight smoke rising from the chimney. Home. It felt like home now in a way it hadn't before. Ida met them at the door, her face creased with worry. Well? Clara handed her the papers. 3 months. And I don't think Crawford will be bothering us anymore. Ida looked at the documents, then at Clara, then at Tom. Something like awe crossed her weathered features. How did you manage this? I negotiated. Negotiated? Ida shook her head slowly. Girl, you're something else entirely. From down the hall came the sound of small feet. Lily appeared in her nightgown, Biscuit at her heels, her face anxious. You're back. I heard the wagon. She ran to Clara, wrapped her arms around her waist. I was scared. I thought maybe you weren't coming back. Clara knelt, held the girl close. I will always come back. Always. Promise? I promise. Lily pulled back, studying Clara's face with those two wise eyes. Something happened. Something big. Yes, but it's over now. Are we safe? Clara looked up at Tom, at Ida, at this little family she had found against all odds. Yes, sweetheart. We're safe. The days that followed were quiet ones. Tom rode out to spread the news that the loan had been extended, that the ranch was secure for now. Clara returned to her routines with Lily, their lessons taking on new meaning. But something had changed between Clara and Tom. The walls were down now, crumbled by crisis and courage. He no longer kept his distance. He sought her out, found reasons to be in whatever room she occupied. They talked, really talked, about the future, about hopes and fears, about what kind of life they wanted to build. And slowly, carefully, they began to plan together. One evening, 2 weeks after the confrontation with Crawford, Tom found Clara in the parlor, mending by the fire. Lily had already gone to bed, and Ida had retired early, claiming tiredness, but shooting Tom a meaningful look as she left. Can we talk? Clara set down her needle. Of course. Tom sat beside her, closer than usual. His hands were rough and calloused, familiar now from all the times they'd held hers. I've been thinking. About what? About us. About what happens next. He took a breath, steadying himself. When you came here, it was an arrangement, a solution to a problem. I needed help with Lily. You needed a home. That was all it was supposed to be. I remember. But it's not that anymore. It hasn't been for a while. Tom's eyes met hers, dark and earnest. "Clara, I love you." The words hung in the air, simple and profound. "I love how you are with Lily. How you stood up to Crawford. How you refused to let anything break you." His voice roughened. "I love how you make me feel like maybe I'm not as broken as I thought. Like maybe there's something worth having in this life besides work and duty." Clara's eyes burned. "Tom, I know I'm not an easy man. I know I've got walls and fears and more baggage than any person should carry. But if you'll have me not as an arrangement, but as something real, I promise I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Inside, a simple gold ring caught the firelight. "This was my grandmother's. She wore it for 40 years through good times and bad. She told me once that the best marriages aren't built on passion or convenience, but on choosing each other every single day, even when it's hard." Tom's hands shook as he held the ring out. "Clara Whitmore, will you choose me? Not because you have to, but because you want to." Clara looked at the ring, at this man who had been so cold and distant, who had opened his heart so slowly, so painfully, so completely. She thought about everything that had brought her here. The loss, the journey, the arrival in rags on a frozen platform, the doubt in everyone's eyes except a little girl who had prayed for someone kind. She thought about what she would be gaining. Not a ranch, not security, but a family, a home, a love that had been tested by fire and emerged stronger. "Yes." The word came out as a whisper, then again stronger. "Yes, I choose you. I will always choose you." Tom slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, like it had been waiting for her all along. Then he kissed her. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was desperate, hungry, 2 years of loneliness pouring out in a single moment. Clara kissed him back with everything she had. Her hands fisted in his shirt, her heart pounding against his. When they finally broke apart, both gasping, Tom pressed his forehead to hers. "I was so scared I'd never get to do that." Clara laughed, breathless and giddy. "You should have done it weeks ago." "I was trying to be proper." "Proper is overrated." He kissed her again, softer this time, sweeter. "So, we're really doing this, getting married? Unless you've changed your mind in the last 30 seconds. "Never." Tom pulled back, his eyes bright with joy she'd never seen before. "We should tell Lily. Now she's asleep. She'll want to know." He grinned, actually grinned, his whole face transformed. "She's been praying for this, you know, every night." "I know. She told me." They walked down the hall together, hand in hand, and knocked softly on Lily's door. "Lily, are you awake?" A small voice answered. "Maybe." Tom opened the door. Lily sat up in bed, biscuit curled beside her, her eyes bright with suspicious alertness. "Were you eavesdropping?" "Maybe." She looked at their joined hands, at Clara's face, at the ring on her finger. Her mouth dropped open. Are you?" "Miss Clara has agreed to become Mrs. Callahan," Tom said solemnly, "if that's all right with you." For a moment, Lily was perfectly still. Then she exploded out of bed, launching herself at them with a shriek of joy. "Yes, yes, yes, yes." She wrapped her arms around both of them, squeezing tight. "I knew it. I prayed, and God listened." Clara held her close, tears streaming down her face. "He certainly did." "Does this mean you're going to be my mama now, for real?" Clara looked at Tom, saw the question in his eyes, the hope. "If you want me to be." I want so much." Lily pulled back, her face wet with happy tears. "Can I call you Mama? Please." The word hit Clara like a physical force. Mama. She'd never expected to hear that word directed at her. Never dared to hope. "Yes," she whispered. "You can call me Mama." Lily dissolved into fresh tears, burrowing into Clara's arms. Tom wrapped his arms around them both, his cheek pressed against Clara's hair. They stood there for a long time, 3 people who had been alone, who had been broken, who had found each other against all odds. A family forged not by blood, but by choice, by love, by the stubborn refusal to give up. From the doorway came a loud sniffle. Ida stood there, dabbing at her eyes with her apron. "Well, it's about time. I was starting to think I'd have to lock you two in a room together." Tom laughed. "Your methods are subtle as always, Ida." "Subtle doesn't get things done." She crossed to them, pulled Clara into a fierce hug. "Welcome to the family, girl, officially." "Thank you, Ida." "Don't thank me yet. Wait until you see what I put you through before the wedding." But her eyes were soft, warm, with genuine affection. They celebrated late into the night, Lily too excited to sleep, Ida producing a bottle of wine she'd been saving for a special occasion. They talked about wedding plans, about the future, about all the things they would build together. And when the others finally retired, when the house grew quiet and the fire burned low, Clara stood at the window of her blue room, looking out at the snow-covered land. Her land now, her home, her family. She thought about the woman who had stepped off that stagecoach weeks ago, dressed in rags, clutching a carpetbag full of nothing. That woman had been afraid, uncertain, desperate in ways she'd barely admitted to herself. She was still that woman in some ways. Still scarred by loss, still carrying the weight of everything she'd survived. But she was more now, too. Stronger, braver, more certain of her worth than she'd ever been. Tom had seen that worth when no one else could. He'd looked past the rags and the poverty and the judgment of his neighbors. He'd seen the person underneath. And Lily. Sweet, wise, wonderful Lily. She'd known from the first moment that Clara belonged with them. Had prayed for it, believed in it, never wavered. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in." Tom entered, still dressed, his face soft in the lamplight. "Can't sleep either. Too much to think about." He crossed to stand beside her, looking out at the same view, having second thoughts. Never. Clara leaned into him, felt his arm come around her. Just grateful thoughts. Lucky thoughts. Lucky. Tom shook his head. "I'm the lucky one. I posted that advertisement expecting a housekeeper. I got a warrior. Flatterer. Truth-teller." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "My grandmother used to say that the right person finds you exactly when you need them most. I never believed her until now." Clara turned in his arms, looked up at his face. "I love you, Thomas Callahan." "I love you, Clara Whitmore." He smiled. "Soon to be Clara Callahan." "It has a nice ring to it." "It does." He kissed her softly. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow we start planning our future." Our future. Clara tasted the words, found them sweet. "I like the sound of that." Tom left, and Clara finally climbed into bed. But sleep was a long time coming. She lay awake watching the moonlight on the snow, thinking about everything that had led her here. The loss of her father, the crushing debt, the desperate advertisement, the long journey west, the frozen platform, the doubt, the judgment, the fear. And then Lily's hand in hers. Tom's careful eyes warming by degrees. Ida's gruff affection. The slow building of trust, of love, of family. It hadn't been easy. Nothing worth having ever was. But it had been worth it. Every hard mile, every cruel word, every moment of doubt. Because it had led her here. To this room. To this family. To this life she was about to build. Clara Whitmore closed her eyes and dreamed of spring. Of wildflowers blooming in the fields. Of a little girl laughing in the sunshine. Of a man beside her, strong and steady, and hers. Of home. The weeks before the wedding passed in a blur of preparation and joy. Ida threw herself into the planning with ferocious energy, declaring that if Tom Callahan was finally getting married, it would be done properly, or not at all. Clara found herself swept along in the current, grateful for Ida's direction, when her own emotions threatened to overwhelm her. Lily appointed herself official wedding assistant, following Clara everywhere with suggestions and questions. What flowers would there be? What would Clara wear? Could Biscuit carry the rings? The last question required delicate negotiation, but eventually they agreed that Biscuit could attend as a guest of honor. Tom watched it all with bemused affection, occasionally pulled into debates about table arrangements or menu choices. He bore it well, though Clara caught him more than once escaping to the barn for a few moments of peace. Having second thoughts, she teased one evening, finding him brushing down his favorite horse. About marrying you never. He set down the brush and pulled her close. About the circus Ida's creating maybe. She means well. She means to exhaust us all before the ceremony. But he was smiling. 2 more weeks. Then it's done. Then it's just beginning. Tom's expression softened. I like the sound of that. They stood together in the quiet barn, the horses shifting in their stalls, the winter wind whistling outside. These moments had become precious to Clara, stolen pockets of peace in the chaos of preparation. I have something for you, Tom said. I was going to wait until the wedding, but... He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Clara's breath caught. Tom, you already gave me a ring. This is different. He opened the box. Inside lay a delicate gold locket, simple and beautiful. Clara recognized the craftsmanship immediately. This was your mother's. My grandmother's, actually. Passed down through the women of my family. Tom lifted the locket from its case. I want you to have it, to continue the tradition. Clara's eyes filled with tears. I don't know what to say. Say you'll wear it. Say you'll pass it on to Lily someday. Say you'll be part of this family, not just my wife, but... He struggled for words. The heart of this home. The way she was. The way my mother was. Clara took the locket with trembling hands. I'll wear it always. Tom fastened it around her neck, his fingers warm against her skin. The locket settled just above her heart, a weight both light and profound. There, he whispered. Now you're really one of us. Clara turned in his arms, pressed her lips to his. The kiss was tender, full of promise. Thank you, she murmured against his mouth, for everything. Thank me after the wedding. Ida's planning a celebration that might last 3 days. Clara laughed. Heaven help us both. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and cold, the sky a brilliant blue, unmarked by clouds. Clara woke to Ida's insistent knocking and Lily's excited voice demanding entry. Mama! Mama, wake up! It's your wedding day! The word still caught Clara off guard. Mama! Lily had used it constantly since the engagement, rolling it around like a sweet on her tongue. Each time Clara's heart swelled. I'm awake, sweetheart. Come in. Lily burst through the door already dressed in her best frock, her braids tied with blue ribbons that matched her eyes. Biscuit followed his tail, wagging furiously. Ida says you have to eat breakfast even if you're too excited. She says brides who faint are undignified. Ida is very wise. I know, she told me. Lily bounced onto the bed, her face glowing. Are you nervous? Clara considered the question. Was she nervous? She'd been nervous, arriving in Pine Creek. Nervous, facing Crawford. Nervous every moment. She'd wondered if this new life would last. But now on her wedding day, she felt only certainty. No, she said. I'm ready. Me too. Lily snuggled against her side. I've been ready my whole life. Clara held her close, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling the small heart beating against her own. So have I, sweetheart. I just didn't know it. The wedding was held in the small church where Clara had faced the town's judgment just weeks before. The same pews, the same people, but everything felt different now. Clara walked up the aisle on Ida's arm since there was no father to give her away. She wore a simple dress that Ida had insisted on buying, cream-colored, with delicate lace at the collar. The grandmother's locket gleamed at her throat. Her father's derringer was safely hidden at home, no longer needed. Tom waited at the altar, more handsome than she'd ever seen him, his face bright with an emotion she'd once thought him incapable of showing. Joy. Pure, unguarded joy. Beside him stood Lily, clutching a small bouquet, her lips moving silently as she practiced whatever part she'd been assigned in the ceremony. Clara reached the altar. Tom took her hands in his. "You're beautiful," he whispered. "You're not supposed to talk yet." "I don't care." His grip tightened. "You're beautiful, and I love you, and I'm not waiting another second to say it." The Reverend cleared his throat. "Perhaps we could proceed with the official vows." Laughter rippled through the congregation. Clara felt her cheeks warm, but she didn't look away from Tom's eyes. The ceremony was simple and sincere. They spoke the traditional vows, their voices steady and clear. When Tom slipped the wedding band onto Clara's finger, his hands didn't shake. "I now pronounce you husband and wife." The Reverend smiled. "You may kiss your bride." Tom didn't need to be told twice. The kiss was brief, but full of meaning, a promise sealed before God and witnesses. When they parted, Lily tugged at Clara's skirt. "Can I kiss you too? As my official mama?" Clara knelt down, her wedding dress pooling around her. "You can kiss me whenever you want." Lily threw her arms around Clara's neck. "I love you, Mama. I love you too, sweetheart. So much." The congregation applauded. Clara looked out at the faces watching them, the same faces that had judged her so harshly just weeks ago. Some still wore expressions of doubt or disapproval, but many were smiling genuine warmth in their eyes. Mrs. Henderson caught Clara's gaze and nodded approvingly. Mr. Thompson the blacksmith wiped at his eyes with a rough hand. Even Widow Mason managed a stiff nod, which was more than Clara had expected. They weren't all won over. They might never be, but enough of them had seen the truth, had chosen acceptance over judgment. It was a start. The celebration afterward was everything Ida had promised, loud and joyful and lasting well into the night. The ranch house overflowed with guests, the tables groaning under platters of food. Clara moved through it all in a daze, accepting congratulations, answering questions, smiling until her face ached. Tom stayed close, his hand finding hers whenever they were separated for too long. "Having fun?" he asked during a rare quiet moment. "More than I ever imagined." Clara leaned against his shoulder. "Is this real? Sometimes I still can't believe it." "It's real." He pressed a kiss to her hair. "And it's forever." "Forever is a long time." "Not long enough." Tom turned her to face him. "I wasted so many years being afraid. Afraid to let anyone in. Afraid to hope for something more than survival." His voice roughened. "You changed that. You changed everything." Clara touched his face, traced the lines around his eyes. "You changed things too. You gave me a home when I had nothing, a family when I was alone. You were never nothing." Tom's eyes burned into hers. "From the first moment I saw you on that platform dressed in rags holding that worn-out carpet bag, I knew you were something special. I was just too scared to admit it. And now? Now I'm still scared." He smiled. "But I'm more scared of losing you than I am of anything else." Clara kissed him slow and deep, not caring who saw. "You'll never lose me," she whispered. "I promise." Lily found them a moment later dragging Biscuit by his collar. "Mama? Papa, everyone wants you to dance." "Dance!" Tom looked horrified. "I don't dance." "You do tonight." Clara took his hand, laughing at his expression. "Come on, one dance won't kill you." "It might." "Then you'll die happy." She pulled him toward the cleared space in the parlor, where a few couples already swayed to the fiddler's tune. Tom protested weakly, but his arms came around her with easy familiarity. "I warned you I can't dance. Just hold me and move your feet. I'll do the rest." They swayed together, not really dancing, just holding each other while the music played. Lily watched from the sidelines, biscuit in her lap, her face bright with happiness. "Thank you," Tom murmured against Clara's ear. "For what?" "For not giving up. On me. On us. On this life." He held her tighter. "You could have left so many times. After the way the town treated you. After Crawford's threats. After everything. I could have, but I didn't want to." "Why not?" Clara looked up at him, at this man who had been so closed off, so careful, now standing before her, with his heart completely open. "Because you were worth fighting for. This family was worth fighting for." She smiled. "And because a very smart little girl prayed for someone kind, and I wasn't about to prove her wrong." Tom laughed, his whole body shaking with it. "She's something else, that girl. She's ours." "Yes." His eyes glistened. "She's ours." The party wound down as the night grew late. Guests departed with warm wishes and promises to visit. Ida shooed the last stragglers out the door with cheerful threats about overstaying their welcome. Finally, the house was quiet. Lily had fallen asleep hours ago, carried to bed by Tom Biscuit curled at her feet. Ida retired to her room with a satisfied sigh, her work complete. Clara stood at the window of the parlor, looking out at the moonlit snow. Tom came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. "Mrs. Callahan." She smiled. "Mr. Callahan. How does it feel being married?" "Ask me in 50 years." He pressed a kiss to her neck. "I plan to." They stood together, watching the night, comfortable in their silence. So much had changed since that frozen platform. So much had been gained. "I have one more gift for you," Tom said quietly. "You've given me enough." "Not this." He turned her to face him. "Tomorrow we're going to the courthouse. The adoption papers are ready." Clara's heart stopped. "Lily's adoption. Ours." Tom's eyes shone. "Both our names, official and legal. She'll be Clara and Thomas Callahan's daughter in the eyes of the law." Tears spilled down Clara's cheeks. "Tom, she's been yours since the moment she took your hand. I want the world to know it." Clara couldn't speak. She threw her arms around him, buried her face in his chest, let the tears come. "Thank you," she finally managed. "Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you." Tom's voice was rough with emotion. "For loving her, for loving us, for being exactly what we needed when we needed it most." They held each other as the fire burned low and the moon rose high. Two people who had been broken, now whole. Two hearts that had been closed, now open. Two lives that had been separate, now forever joined. The next morning they rode to town as a family. Tom drove the wagon, Clara beside him, Lily bouncing on the seat between them. The courthouse was small, but imposing, its brick facade a testament to the law's authority. The judge was a kindly man with spectacles and a white beard. He reviewed the papers, asked the necessary questions, watched Lily with gentle eyes. "Young lady, do you understand what's happening today?" Lily nodded solemnly. "I'm getting a mama, officially." "And how do you feel about that?" "I feel happy." Lily reached for Clara's hand. "I prayed for her. God sent her to us." The judge smiled. "Well, I don't often hear testimony quite like that." He signed the final document with a flourish. "By the power vested in me by the territory of Montana, I declare this adoption complete. Miss Lily is now legally and forever the daughter of Thomas and Clara Callahan." Lily's shriek of joy echoed through the courthouse. She launched herself at Clara, then at Tom, then back at Clara again. "I have a mama. A real mama." Clara held her tight, tears streaming down her face. "You have a mama, sweetheart, forever and always." Tom wrapped his arms around them both, his face wet, his smile brighter than Clara had ever seen. They walked out of the courthouse as a complete family. The winter sun shone down on them, turning the snow to diamonds. The townspeople they passed nodded greetings, some warm, some merely polite. Clara didn't care. She had everything she needed right here. A husband who loved her, a daughter who had prayed for her, a home that had welcomed her. The wagon ride back to the ranch was filled with Lily's excited chatter. She had plans, dozens of them. Things she wanted to show Clara, places she wanted to go, adventures she wanted to share. And at Christmas, we can make cookies together. Ida's recipe. And we can decorate the tree. And Papa can read us the Christmas story, and we can all be together forever. Clara laughed through her tears. All of that, I promise. Cross your heart. Cross my heart. Lily settled back with a satisfied sigh. This is the best day ever, even better than when Biscuit learned to fetch. Tom caught Clara's eye and smiled. The love there took her breath away. They crested the final hill, and the ranch spread out before them. The house with its smoke rising from the chimney. The barn where the horses waited. The fields stretching toward the mountains white with snow, but full of promise. Home. Clara's home now, truly and completely. She thought about the woman who had arrived on that frozen platform just weeks ago. The woman in rags clutching a worn carpet bag, trembling with cold and fear. That woman had hoped for kindness, had prayed for acceptance, had dreamed of belonging somewhere. She'd found all of that and more. Mama, Lily's voice broke through her thoughts. Why are you crying? Clara wiped her eyes and smiled. Happy tears, sweetheart. Only happy tears. Because you're home. Because I'm home. Tom pulled the wagon to a stop before the house. He climbed down and helped Clara to the ground, his hands lingering on her waist. Welcome home, Mrs. Callahan. Thank you, Mr. Callahan. Lily scrambled down and ran toward the door, shouting for Ida to come see to hear the news to celebrate. Biscuit's barks echoed across the yard. Clara stood in the snow looking at the life she had built from nothing, the love she had found when all seemed lost, the family that had chosen her as surely as she had chosen them. Tom took her hand. Ready. Ready. They walked toward the house together, toward the warmth and the light, toward the voices calling them in. Behind them, the winter sun set over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Ahead of them, the door stood open, welcoming them home. Clara paused on the threshold, looked back at the path that had brought her here. Every hardship, every loss, every moment of doubt had led to this. To a home filled with love, to a family that would never let her go. She had arrived in rags with nothing but her integrity. She left as a wife, a mother, a woman who had proven her worth in ways that money could never measure. The door closed behind her. The fire burned bright. Lily's laughter rang through the rooms. And Clara Callahan, who had once had nothing at all, finally had everything. Some people search their whole lives for a place to belong. Some never find it, wandering from one empty room to another, always seeking, never arriving. But some, the lucky ones, the blessed ones, find their way home through the darkest storms. They find the hands that will hold them, the hearts that will accept them, the love that will never let them go. Clara had been lost for so long, had been cold, hungry, afraid, alone. But she had kept walking, kept hoping, kept believing that somewhere, somehow, someone was waiting for her. And she had been right. Home is not a place. It's not four walls and a roof. It's not land or property or wealth. Home is the people who choose you, who see your worth when the world sees only rags, who stand beside you through storms and sunshine, who love you not for what you bring, but for who you are. Clara had found her home in a snow-covered territory at the edge of the frontier, in a man who had forgotten how to hope, in a little girl who had never stopped praying. She had found her home in their hearts, and they had found theirs in hers, and that was worth more than all the riches in the world. The coldest winters always break, the longest nights always end, and those brave enough to keep walking, to keep believing, to keep loving, despite everything, they are the ones who find their way home. Clara Callahan had found her way, and she was never letting go.